Oh, doing it now. We're through.
Yay.
So I'm just going to get YouTube up as well so I can see it. I think we may be live already. Okay. I believe we are live. Okay, I need to turn the sound off on YouTube.
Same.
And I can see the captions, so that's good. Excellent. Caroline is saying good evening, ladies, so I think we're good. Okay.
I've muted YouTube.
Okay,
Right.
good. I think we've got the tech working. So that's fantastic. Good evening, everybody. We're just finding our feet with the tech here for a second. How are we all this evening? Where are you calling from? Where are you calling from? Where are you watching from? I'm just gonna get started in a couple of minutes. So what I'm gonna do here, everybody who's watching the replay, scrub forward to the point where I wave my arms around like this, because that's when we're actually getting started. So, hi, Lisa, North Carolina. Hi, I'm Aris. It's good to see you. Okay, we're going to get started in a minute with our competition workshop. And just wait for a couple of people to come on here. Josephine in Colorado. I'm going to be in Colorado next week. I shouldn't give that away, should I? Excellent. Hey, and you're in London, Caroline. Fantastic. Not far away then. And Jane is in Worcester. So we've got a few Brits on tonight. Fantastic. Evening from South Wales, says Jeanette. So, hi. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. I'm from Venice. Good evening. Buongiorno, Venezia. Can't guarantee to speak every language that's going to be on tonight. I hope you can also see we've got captions, live captions going. I think that's probably working for you as well. Good to see everybody. Hi, Teresa in Portugal. And good evening. You probably know who I am, but this is Loana, who I've got with me tonight, who is one of the Foundation's Real Mentors and coaches. So,
Hi, everyone.
And we've got Elena Riel in Pisa too. So we've got a couple of Italians on tonight. Okay, so it's just a couple of minutes after 9 o'clock. So I think we ought to get going in a minute here. So I'm going to wave my arms around like this. So everybody knows everybody who's scrubbing forward who's watching the replay knows that we're actually getting started now. So good evening, everyone. It is so good to see you. Thank you for being here. This is our competition workshop. This is brand new for 2022-2023. I'm really excited to be able to do this. We have taken a year out to kind of reboot the competition and reinvent it to be more inclusive, more welcoming than ever. So the first thing we're doing that is completely different to before is we're doing this whole new competition workshop to help you figure out how to design, plan, and make a better job of your entry than ever before. And this is not just about the competition. This is what you're going to learn tonight and over the weekend is applicable to any and every type of big, ambitious project or any kind of project, particularly any kind of project that you're doing that has a deadline. So we all know that feeling of cramming the night before the deadline, and I want to stop that happening for you. I want to make it easier and more fun than ever to do any kind of project like this, whether for the competition or for something else. So in the next 4 days, my outcome for you is I want you to be able to walk away with knowing what your design is for the competition or for whatever project you're working on right now that you might be applying this to. A project that you're excited about, that's ambitious but not too ambitious. I want you to be able to have a plan, to walk away with a plan that enables you to pace yourself smoothly from the idea to the finished masterpiece without cramming when the deadline looms. And on Sunday, we're going to give you some insider knowledge on what just little tweaks can make your entry really stand out from the crowd. We're going to be looking at some past competition entries and looking at what works, and talking about the entry form and what the judges are looking for, and how they're, giving you the insider tips on what the judges are actually going to be looking for and how they're going to be judging your entry. So you're going to see me looking over here, and that's because I've got my notes down here. I've been preparing for a while in advance, so you might see me sort of reading off a bit of paper over here. We're also, at the end of the weekend on Monday, we're going to open up enrolment for Foundations Revealed. That may be something that might help you enormously with your entry, with all the resources we've got and the mentorship we've got there. So we will talk about that more on Monday. On Monday, we will also be opening our scholarship program. We have an application form for scholarships. If you are on limited resources, or you are from one of the marginalized, more traditionally marginalized or underrepresented groups in the community. So that is going to be there for you. And again, we'll talk more about scholarships on Monday and how that works. And also, I need to mention that we are going to be producing some written notes to go with this whole workshop. So my team are going to watch these videos back right after it's over and put together those notes for you. So if you want the written notes, you'll need to sign up at the link below that I haven't put in yet. I'll have to do that later. Make sure you sign up at the landing page that you've been seeing on social media, so that if you're on the mailing list, then you'll get the notes afterwards. And in the meantime, have a pen and paper with you anyway, because if you write your own notes as we're going along, you'll retain much more of the information. The science shows, even if you never look at those notes again, you'll remember more and retain more if you're making notes and actively getting involved and engaging. So that is my top tip. I'm also going to recommend that you switch off notifications on your phone so you can be completely engaged here and not get distracted. And so we have been doing the Foundations Revealed competition for 11 years now. And that's a long time. And for a long time, we had maybe 30 to 50 entries a year. But something has changed now. In 2021, we had 600 entries, which is just a game changer for you and for us. It's a lot of admin on the back end, but it's a game changer for you as well, because it seems like some people just seem to make it look easy and produce these amazing, fabulous entries, and other people struggle to get finished at all and to enter something. So if that sort of frustration and perfectionism sound familiar, of like only just making it to the finish line or not making it to the finish line, to the deadline at all, then this workshop is for you. Because if you want to enter the competition this year, Luana and I are about to make it a lot easier and a lot more fun. So I am here tonight with Luana O'Shea. I always mispronounce your name. I hope I've got that right.
Perfect.
Luana is in New Zealand, so it is Saturday morning for her. It is Friday night, 9 p.m. for me. So we are both doing this on strange times of day. You are here with me tonight as one of our mentors at Foundations Revealed, and you're going to help me just show everybody how this really works, how to do an ambitious project. Sorry, I'm doing half a dozen things at once here. So I also have forgotten to hit record because we didn't have Kat here to do it. So we're now, there you go. So you're here to help get us to a more accomplished competition entry by just knowing how the pros plan out a big project and get it done on time. Because let's face it, if you're a wedding dress designer, as you have been, then a wedding day is not a deadline you can miss. You know, you've got to produce the wedding dress as it should be, as the bride wanted it, on the day, without fail. So how do you do that?
Quite
That
a
is
bit before the
really-
day too.
Say that again?
Usually before the day.
Yes.
Like, you know, they want to know that it's ready, not the day of, but with time to spare for, you know,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, I mean, there's your first top tip. I mean, aim not to finish on the deadline, but before the deadline. So you've got plenty. We'll be talking about that later, because submitting your entry is a whole thing in itself. So in day one of our competition workshop today, you're going to discover a simple, counterintuitive way of looking at your entry that will completely change the way you approach the 2023 competition. Once you get this simple shift down in how you're looking at how you're choosing and designing your entry, you're going to see your confidence and your entry improve dramatically, I promise you. So whether you have entered the competition before, but you still aren't making things that you're truly happy with and entering things in the end that you're truly happy with, or whether you're still scrolling on Instagram, procrastinating over getting started, stay with us, because you're going to discover why all of us makers can launch into a project like this with maximum confidence and excitement, and why you're going to need to get these core planning skills handled right now. So we want to just basically help you cut through the overwhelm and get it right first time. So I've got way too many notes here. I should like throw this out. Before we truly get started, I've got to give one big caveat. There's one big warning. There's one thing everybody seems to get wrong at this stage in September, and this is why we're doing this workshop at this moment. And that is that most people think in September that they've got plenty of time. The deadline for the competition is February the 22nd, I believe. I know it's in February. And everybody seems to think, many people, not everybody, many people seem to think that they can wait till Christmas, get to the end of the year, and then in January, it's like, right, now, what am I going to make? Everybody leaves it till the last minute. And I want to just encourage you. We have a few people every year who have been working on it for months beforehand, who have really given themselves tons of time, and they've made it so much easier for themselves. And they've been able to produce something that's so much more accomplished and shows off their skills and their enthusiasm as a maker so much better, because they just gave themselves more rope to work with. So the reason that we're doing this right now is because most people leave it to the last minute, and we want to encourage you to think about this and get stuck in right now with knowing what you're making and with getting that plan together. Okay, I'm looking at Kathy saying someone needs to head over to the announcement page to let the 60-odd people know this is on a separate stream. Okay, thank you. Let people know about that. I don't see. Are we not at the link provided? I'm sorry. Looks like I've mucked up the link that was in the email. So I'm sorry about that. We seem to be in the wrong live stream. I will figure out what happens later. Sorry about that. So yes, do let people know if you've got a way of letting people know over in the wrong place that this is where we are. Sorry about that. So most of us can get closer to the entry we really want to make if without working so hard, if we just give ourselves more time. So thank you, Constance. So we've also got Constance McKenzie in the chat, who is one of our other mentors, Foundations Revealed. And she also is somebody who knows about giving yourself enough time and finishing things for a deadline, because she is a professional in the theatre and movie industry. So again, a place with tight budgets, tight deadlines, and you cannot miss that deadline. So Constance is also there to answer your questions. So we are going to walk you through the whole process of designing your entry. So I'm going to just give you a little bit more background about, in fact, I'll let Luana, you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you come to be a Foundations Revealed mentor and what your professional background is?
Okay. Well, I've been sewing since I was a teenager, and I've had my business Vanyanis for, oh my gosh, I think it's 13 or 14 years now. It's a long time anyway. And I make bespoke wedding gowns, custom corsetry. I also have a ready-to-wear line or different collections. And I also teach corset making and, well, teach other people to do what I do. And I think it was maybe 7 years ago that you and I met. Something like that. Yeah, we met at a corset conference because that's where you meet like-minded people, one of the places. And yeah, I guess things just progressed from there. And Kathy asked me to be one of the mentors to help teach other people what it is, how to become wonderful makers. And I feel a bit put on the spot with this question because I
sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to tell you in advance I was going to do that.
No, I mean, I should have expected it. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, with I guess my knowledge of corsetry and bridal wear and that kind of thing, I'm self-taught with that, and it took a really long time to get really good and feel really confident in my skills. And when I was learning how to make corsets, in particular corsets, not just sewing in general, but I'm going to use corsets because that's kind of the thing that really captured my creative heart, and I sort of dove in the deep end with that. Well, I wasn't aware of at the time. There weren't resources that I could turn to. I didn't know of Foundations Revealed at the time. There wasn't courses that I could go to learn it. I had a library card and I borrowed every book I could find in a library that might have even referenced the word corset. But, there wasn't really anything to teach me how to do it. And I was in Australia at the time. There weren't museum collections that I could go study. Like, I think the only corsets that I got to see in person were maybe some mass-produced ready-to-wear corsets at some goth shops or something, which, they're okay, but they're not, they weren't the pictures of these beautiful corsets that I was admiring online, on amazing performers and in movies and things like that. So I just kind of struggled along on my own. And there were definitely moments where I just literally wanted to pull my hair out because things weren't turning out how I wanted. But, with every corset I made, I'm a bit of, I call myself a recovering perfectionist because, newsflash, there is no such thing as perfect. It just doesn't exist. I'm coming to terms with this, but at the time I was very much a perfectionist. And so with every piece that I made, I would analyze it and try and figure out what went wrong with it and why it didn't turn out how I wanted and why different seams were sitting the way they were. And just with everyone, I just got better and better until eventually, I think, I don't want to sound big-headed, but like I was starting to get happy with my work and it was actually turning out well. But it was really hard work to get there because I mean, I'm proud of the journey I went on because I didn't give up. But looking back, there's so many, like now there are so many more resources. I think when I first discovered Foundations Revealed, I signed up pretty much immediately, and there were a few, I had a few questions that I just, that I still hadn't figured out how to work out on my own. And within, a couple of days of being a member, I'd found the answers to those questions. And I'm like, I've been trying to figure this out for years, and the answers have been right here the whole time. And it was a life-changing moment for me. And then I started making friends with other corset makers, and then we met, and then, that's kind of just how it went. But when I started teaching other people how to make corsets, like I run in-person workshops, the whole reason I started was because, well, two reasons. One reason is it's bespoke corsets can be quite expensive and not everyone can afford them. And so I wanted to sort of offer a more affordable way for people who are perhaps creative to get bespoke corsets, so that I could still help them with something. And then the other thing was that I had people asking me if I did classes. So I'm like, well, this will help more people because not everyone can afford a bespoke corset, but maybe they can afford the time to make their own. And so I started teaching, and it was amazing. Like I just find it one of the most enriching things that I could possibly do, because I'm empowering other people how to make something that's really, I think, really fun to make, but it does so much for your self-esteem and just like how you feel about yourself, you know, when you make stuff that fits properly. And usually the people who are coming to me to learn how to make things, they want to make things because they can't find things in the shops that fit them, because, you know, they don't fit that one body shape that most shops seem to cater for. And yeah, I just haven't stopped teaching since then, because I just love helping other people help make clothes that fit them. And yeah, that's what I do at Foundations Revealed as well, is that I help people. It's not in person, but it's online. We do live workshops. I help them, you know, fit their mock-ups via pictures and comments, and yeah, it's just great because everybody deserves clothes that fit, and you know, it's a skill you can learn, and it's a skill that you can learn with help. It's so much more enjoyable rather than just battling it out for a decade by yourself. You could just get someone to, oh, it's just that little thing there, and you go, of course it is, and then it's easy.
And that's what we're aiming to do tonight, is just to help people just cut the learning curve in half, so you don't have to spend 10 years figuring out how to do this stuff. So tonight we're going to talk about design and how to pick what you're going to make for a competition entry or any kind of ambitious project you might want to do for an event or whatever it is. So what have you got for us in terms of how to get into designing a competition? And I mean, for a start, why would you want to go into entering a competition like this? Why try?
Are you wanting me to talk?
Yeah, talk a little bit, because I don't know whether anybody, I mean, tell us in the chat, are you thinking of entering a competition? Is it something that you've definitely got in mind, or is it like, well, maybe, I don't quite know where you all are, but tell me, and tell us whether there are any recovering perfectionists watching tonight as well.
We should start a group just for recovering perfectionists.
And don't forget to hit the like as well.
Yeah.
So go on.
No, you go.
Okay. I'm gonna say, I mean, the reason we run a competition is, I mean, some people say sometimes it's like, oh, well, it's just a marketing thing for Foundations Revealed. It really isn't. If it was a marketing thing, there are ways to do marketing that are a lot easier than running a big competition. It's a lot of admin on the back end. The reason we do this is that when you set yourself a challenge, you grow. You realize how much you're capable of. You usually realize you're capable of more than you thought you were. And that helps you grow in your confidence and grow as a person. So that's just part of my personal growth obsession, is that I know by challenging people to do something bigger, maybe a bit more ambitious than they would have done, maybe giving you an opportunity to do that fantastical thing you've always wanted to do but never had an excuse to do, you know, that fantastical project you wanted to do, then, you know, you have that opportunity to grow and to find out what you're capable of. So that's really why we do it. There's a way to, it's a way to show you what you can do. And
can I just add one little thing, Kathy? Having a deadline is really helpful. I don't know about all of you, but I know, at least say for my personal projects, it's different when it's for a client, because you just have to meet the client's deadline. That's the job. But when it's for your own personal projects, it's so easy to just put it aside and go, oh, I'll start it tomorrow. I'll start it next week. I'll start it when I've got a whole day that I can just work on it, instead of just, fitting in half an hour here, an hour there, like it actually just getting going, even if it's only in a small sort of capacity. And when there's a deadline like there is for the competition, it makes you start, and it gives you a goal, to like a tangible, like it has to be done by this date. Whereas if it's just something that, there's no deadline, you can never even start, because it doesn't need to be finished anytime soon. It can just end up being this thing, like, yeah.
I think there are way too many projects that people say, oh yeah, one day I'm going to make, I've always had this idea of making X, and it never happens if you've not got an excuse to push yourself to do it. So
yeah,
this kind of challenge really helps people grow as makers and develop their skills, and gives you an excuse to give time to your sewing.
Yeah. Someone suggested in the chat that we need a badge or a sticker for recovering perfectionists. I think we need a badge or a sticker for the one-day projects as well, but it should be the one day is now, and now is the time that you're going to start those projects.
Yeah. And that's it. So do you want to get into a little bit telling people how you pick a project, how you design a project? How do you get to, I had a message from somebody today saying, I'd love to enter the competition, but I've just got like 1,000 ideas. And I released a video on this earlier this evening. When you've got 1,000 ideas, or maybe you don't have any clue what you want to do you want to talk a bit about that initial design stage? I've decided I want to enter. How the heck do I come up with something or design something? Where do I start?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so if you haven't already seen over on Foundations Revealed, the theme of the competition, I'm going to say this year, but I know the deadline's next year, but it's, we're starting now. So I'm going to say this year's competition, it's the natural world. So that is, I think, an amazing theme, because it's so broad. It's so open to interpretation. You can fit so many different things into that. So, if you're not sure what to make, the first thing I would suggest, go for a walk out in nature. If you live in a city, if there's a park nearby, just go to the park and sit outside and look around and see what you can see, and start thinking, wow, how's the texture of that tree or that bush? Like, how could that translate to fabric or embellishment on something? Nature is your biggest inspiration. We've also put together a wonderful Pinterest board with some inspiration, and I'm just going to screen share that. Just to give you a quick little look, and the link to this is all on Foundations Revealed.
If you go, while Luana brings that up, if you go on the Foundations Revealed website, there's a link on the top menu to competition stuff and all the stuff about the competition there, the entrance pack, and then this mood board that we've got.
It's such a great mood board. Sorry, I'm not signed in at the moment, but just to give you a little bit of an idea of some of the things we've got on here. There are just, nature's amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's not just flowers and vines. There are so many other different textures and things, whether that's insects or water or sea life or anything. Even the texture on this bark over here, like the colors in that are gorgeous. That you could try dyeing some fabric or something and trying to recreate that effect. There's so many different ways you could interpret everything, and there's heaps of ideas in this in this Pinterest board. So I do recommend going and having a really thorough look. And if there's any that catch your eye, click on them and scroll down, and you might find similar things recommended, and you take you down this wonderful rabbit hole of things to look at. So do have a look at that. The main thing I want to kind of communicate to you about this designing process is that there's not one right way to design a design. You don't have to sit down with a pencil and paper and sketch a design and then just make what you've drawn. That is certainly one way that many people like to design, and that's completely valid. That's what I do for my clients, because they when you're working with the client, generally they kind of need to see what you're talking about. They might not be able to picture it just by you describing it. They need something visual to assist them. For example, I'll tell you how I usually like to design for my own personal projects, not my client things, my just stuff I'm making for myself. Usually I'm quite driven by the fabric. So it might just be that I go to my stash, or I'm in a shop and I see some fabric that I just fall in love with. And then I usually kind of build the design around the fabric that I have. And it might just be that, I don't know, the fabric that I have is, what do I think of? Okay, I've got this beautiful gold brocade that I want to use one day, and it's got quite a good bit of body to it. So when I handle it, I'm kind of trying to think of this overall silhouette that would be best for, and what I want my silhouette to be in that dress or in that fabric. And then from there, usually as I'm making it, I'll kind of like fill in the details inside the silhouette from there. And it comes together quite organically for me. I don't always have this super clear, defined, like decided on design right from the beginning. It might just be, right, I know what shape it's going to be, so I need to build the understructure first, and then I'll build the dress on top of that. And it just kind of comes together quite organically, which, that works for me, but that might be an approach that definitely doesn't work for you, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to try and do what I do. It's all about finding what suits your making style and how you feel the most comfortable and happy and fulfilled when you're creating. So that's just one example. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes as well, because there's so much I want to say, but we've got to sort of squeeze as much as we can in for you. So another thing that you could do is, like I said at the start, you could sketch it. You could come up with an idea. You might not already have the fabric. You just might have suddenly get this, oh my gosh, I know what I want to make. And you sketch out a design, or maybe you just pull together a little mood board with some pictures you find, and you know exactly what you want to make. And then you go out and you get materials to fit that design. That's totally fine. Something else that you can also do is, you can say you've got a dream, I'm just going to say dress. Say you've got a dream dress or outfit that you've always been wanting to make, like forever, as long as you've been that you thought you might learn to sew clothes. This is what I did for one of my friends in Foundations Revealed. She works for Foundations Revealed. She's a concierge, helps the members. But she was telling me about this dress that she wanted to make, which is, actually, I'm going to pull it up and I'm going to show you what it is. It's a dress that Princess Diana wore. I think it's called the Travolta dress.
Yeah.
Can we all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so Brooklyn said that she's been wanting to make this dress since she was 10 years old. And I asked her if she was going to enter the competition. Side note, if you work for Foundations Revealed, you can only enter in a showcase capacity. We're not part of the competition anyway. And she said she really wanted to, but she didn't know how it would fit the theme. And so she sent me this picture. I didn't know the dress, so she sent me a picture of the dress. And immediately I'm just like, look at that beautiful blue velvet, all gathered and, textured like that. I'm like, that's completely the ocean. Like, why don't you add some, you could do some really delicate little gathered tulle or pearls or something like around the neckline, and that could be like the froth and like the foam from the waves crashing on the sand, and it could completely be the sea. And she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm doing it. I can do it. I can fit my dream project into the theme of the competition, and I could do it. And then she told me off for enabling her to make this really complicated and fancy gown, but that's okay. I love enabling people to make their dream projects or just projects in general. But the point is, how could you adapt your dream project or that thing that you've been wanting to make forever? It doesn't have to be like your ultimate dream project, but if there's something that you've been wanting to make for a while, can you make it fit the theme? Could you perhaps modify it a little bit or even transform it? So say with that dress that I just showed you, I don't know exactly how Brooklyn's going to make it fit, like what she's going to do to make it fit the theme. But the point is that she got excited and she can. But as an example, you could make a removable trim, with texture and, tulle and beads and things to, emulate more of like the foam of the ocean. But that could be removable so that, you could enter it into the competition, but then it's also still the original thing that you always wanted to make. There's, you don't have to design for the competition. You can use the competition as an excuse to create something that you already want to create and just make your project fit the theme. Think creatively. Nature is such a huge theme. Most things can be brought back to that. If you start thinking, oh, hang on, what color is that? What is that color in nature? Do any of those things link back to this? Could I just tweak a little bit of the design so it really links more strongly and it's a bit more obvious that it is a nature thing? Another thing that you could consider when coming up with your design, it might be that you don't design and then find the material. It could be that you go to your stash or you look around your house, or maybe you're shopping in a thrift store and you see a bolt of fabric at a really good price that you can afford. Buy that fabric. Use that bedspread that has a beautiful print of or a texture. It could just be the right color. You could find some old curtains in a thrift store that are perfect. It could be you have some old curtains, or someone's gifted you some fabric at some point that's just been sitting there and you don't know what to do with. Use what you already have. You don't have to go out and spend money on expensive fabrics in order to enter. It can be just using what's available to you and then thinking about how can I, what would work for this fabric that I already have access to? How can that become something nature themed? And there's so many different ways you could do that. Brainstorm it out yourself. Talk to your friends. We've got a post about it on Instagram with the competition hashtag, and ask other people in the community, what would you do with this? You're allowed to become part of it.
You're allowed to have help. We don't have
allowed to have help.
It's not like school has to be all your own work, and you have to have done, it has to be mostly your own sewing work, but you can get help with it. But it doesn't have to be pen and paper, draw a thing. I'm not a very good drawer. You might not enjoy drawing either. Don't let that put you off. It doesn't have to be done that way. It can literally just be using what's available to you. And some of my best, I feel like some of my most creative work has been the result of only using what's in my stash, not going out and buying more stuff, or being limited by a really not quite enough fabric and having to get really creative with how I turn that smaller length of fabric into something that I want it to be. Because when you're a little bit constrained, when there are it can be really helpful to the design process
to have some limitations, because you have to think really creatively, how can I make this amazing? And then suddenly you've got this incredible thing that you're like, oh, but I just made that with some curtains, and for one reason, some unknown reason, there was only one curtain, not two. Like, I didn't have as much fabric as I thought. I've known people who've made wedding gowns out of curtains, and they've been absolutely incredible. It's not about how much money you have to spend on fancy fabrics. It's about
yeah.
It's
a really good point, actually. People think that you've got to spend a lot of money to have any chance of doing well in the competition or looking good on social media or whatever. You really don't. It's about how creative you can be with what resources you've got.
Yeah.
So, throwing money at the problem doesn't necessarily make a great entry,
And yeah, I mean, if there's no limits to like your fabric budget or anything, sometimes that can almost be harder in trying to decide what to make, because there's no limitation. Like, but I mean, we're always trying to encourage people to be to stash bust and use what you have, be a bit more environmentally friendly, like conscious about what you're using and reusing stuff. And some of the most incredible entries that people have done have been from, they've bought clothes or material from thrift stores, and they've utilized that. So
it's one of the most effective limitations, creative limitations you could put on yourself is, right, I'm going down to the thrift store and I'm going to see what calls to me and make something with that.
Yep.
It's a great way to get started.
Yep. So, it's a wonderful way. But yes, hopefully those are some ideas that will give you some ideas about opening your mind to how you can come up with a design, and that there isn't just one way to come up with one. It's completely valid to, do any of those things that I've suggested and other ways of coming up with designs. I'm sure there are many other different ways you can arrive at a design. So hopefully that helps. Yes. Sorry, I haven't been keeping up with the chat while I've been
I also want to say, while you look at the chat, I also want to say, I want to challenge you tonight as you're watching this, that as we were saying, one of the best ways to come up with a design and actually settle on something is to give yourself those constraints, like how much money you're going to spend, or going to the thrift store and saying, I'm going to buy something today and just see what calls to me. I would like to make it your homework. Your challenge, should you be willing to accept it, is to come up with your design today, or before we go live again tomorrow, before we go into part 2. What do you think? I mean, you could get on Pinterest tonight. You could get on those mood boards. You could be looking in your stash. You could go to the thrift store before we have our next broadcast tomorrow and see if you can get to the design you want to use this year. Because it really isn't about picking the best design. It's about picking a design and then doing a great job of it. So I would like to challenge you. What do you think, Moana? Do you think we can?
I think we should.
To...
This is a gentle challenge. You
you
can choose to be challenged or not.
Wire, but yeah. If you choose to make that your challenge, if you tend to be held back by decision paralysis, it's a great way to just put that limitation on yourself. So, okay, my deadline for coming up with a design is by the next broadcast tomorrow. So see what you can do with that.
I'm going to put my recovering perfectionist hat on again for just a second and say, for those of you who have heaps of ideas and you're like, oh, I don't know which one to pick, or you've got an idea but you're worried it's not good enough, there is no such thing as a perfect design. The good enough design, the perfect design for you, is the one that you decide to start. Because if you don't start, you're not going to make anything. It's not going to get you creating. You're not going to be learning new skills as you go. You're just going to be dithering about but what if I think of something better tomorrow? Or what if I find the perfect fabric tomorrow, but then you're always looking for that next perfect thing, and perfection doesn't exist. I'm not saying that your work won't be incredible, because it will. Like, it, once you start it, that gives you a chance to make something amazing. But if you don't start, all you have is nothing.
Yeah.
You need to start to have something and give yourself the opportunity to make something amazing. So just, yeah, if you're up for the challenge, just pick something. And often when you want to do something, but you're not sure in what way. So for example, say it is that you want to enter the competition. You're like, I know I want to enter, but I've got no idea what to make. I've got too many ideas, or I don't know. Maybe give yourself some constraints about, okay, I'm going to enter, but I'm entering with using fabric that's in my stash. Or I'm going to the thrift store, like Kathy said, and I'm coming up with an idea today with what I can find in that thrift store, and that's it. That's going to be my idea. That, like, I know, like, having the perfect idea is this like carrot that likes to dangle in front of you sometimes. But I'm sorry, but I know it hurts to hear sometimes as perfectionists, but that perfect idea is just, it doesn't exist. You've just got to start making, and then, it teaches you a lot, and then the next project is going to be even better than the previous one, and you just keep building on your skills. And yeah, so pick something. I heartily agree with this idea of homework, Kathy. I think
I'm interested to see what people come up with. And if you're having trouble choosing, if you really want to have a conversation about it, then, start talking in the chat, start talking in the comments if you're watching the replay. And, we can figure it out together. It's one of my favorite things about the competition is nobody ever really treats it like a competition. Everybody, I know you've seen this as well, Luana, whether within the Foundations Reveal community or whether the larger community, people kind of just compete with themselves, and it's almost like everybody's working together on their own entries as if it's an exhibition. It's almost like the competition element of it is like an extra at the end. It's like, oh yeah, there's like voting and judging and stuff, but it's really like everybody's working together to create a great exhibition at the end of it. So feel free to just talk about your design and talk about the indecision you're having and what your ideas are. And keep in mind, a lot of times when you have a lot of ideas, you often end up going back to the original idea that you started with. So why not just pick that one idea now? And we've had many times in the past. I mean, last year's theme was Once Upon a Time. It was pick a character from fiction, and we had many people who would pick the same character or who would have the same idea. And many people would do that idea in different ways. So it's really not about having the perfect design so much as just settling on a design and then putting your energy into, okay, how am I going to do that design? And the creativity then comes in the how to do it, not so much in the, oh God, what do I pick? So the design stage is really, it's kind of an obstacle you've got to get over, or not, well, you've not got to let it be an obstacle and let it stop you. It's just as soon as you've come up with something and you know what your idea is, then you're off and running. So we really want to get you over that hurdle tonight. So
yeah, the most, I'm just thinking back to, we're saying, how to pick the most incredible project, and have the most standout entry. The best thing you can do is like just decide if you're going to enter or not. If the answer is yes, then just pick something to make. That, I know that seems like it's not the big secret, but starting and having a project to work on is kind of the secret, because there are so many people who every year I see in comments on social media, oh, I really wanted to enter, but I didn't know what to do. And if you look through their Instagram accounts, you can see that they make lovely things and that they've got so much potential, but they didn't start because maybe they were overwhelmed with too many ideas, not enough ideas. They just didn't have the confidence to get going.
Mhm.
But the people who do enter, like their ideas or their entries stand out, it's because they've started and they've given themselves that opportunity to actually create something. So do that for yourself if that's what you want to do. And also, if the competition isn't for you, hopefully these tips will help you with just projects that you've been wanting to make anyway. Like you can use what we're talking about in these workshops for your projects. It doesn't just have to be for the competition. I mean, we're talking about the competition because that's the thing with the deadline that will hopefully get you out of your heads a little bit and actually making and sewing and creating wonderful stuff. But you can use these skills and suggestions that we're saying for making in general. It doesn't just have to be for the competition.
Yes. So if we move on from when you've got a design, you know generally what your design, what the idea is. How do you pick something that is going to challenge you a little bit, but not too much? You had a great strategy about how you come up with different versions of your design. So do you want to walk us through that?
I will. Okay, so, okay. I know everyone's heads are probably like whirling with ideas and like, oh, what can I make? What can I make? But just bear with me for a second. You can always watch this, like rewatch this later as well if you want. Okay.
Well, just to set it up, this is kind of going on to the next step of how do you pick a design and then think, oh God, I hope that's not going to be too much work, you know, or too little work, or like, is it going to be too much to do that? Is that too ambitious? So this is just a strategy to make sure it's the right amount of ambitious and not too much and not too little. Go on, sorry, carry on.
No, that's great. That's great. So this is like step 2. You've got your idea. Now we're going to have to start kind of planning the idea.
Kind of scope. We're going into scope here. What is this?
So also, little thing, what is a big project to one person might be a small project to someone else. It doesn't matter how big or small your idea. It could literally be you want to make a chemise. Maybe that could be your project idea. That is completely valid. And it is just as valid as someone who wants to make a fancy historical ensemble made up of 6 different garments. It doesn't have to be this huge ensemble to be a valid entry. It can literally be the simplest garment that you could think of. It could be a petticoat or an apron or a chemise. It doesn't have to be, you know,
the whole ensemble. And we had entries last year. We had entries that were like the entire 18th century, you know, with everything. And then we had other entries, particularly in the beginner and apprentice categories, that was a chemise, a petticoat. There was one beautiful entry that I've put on the sign-up page, which was she made an apron. And she was a lady who was dealing with a chronic illness. And she made this beautiful embroidered apron. And she was like, this is what I can do. And I'm really proud. I finished this because this is what I could do with my capabilities. So that is totally valid.
Yep. So don't feel like your idea has to be this huge outfit. It can be simple and still be amazing. Okay. That said, if you have the energy for it and you know you're in love with the idea of doing an entire outfit, that's fine too. Like there's no rules about how big your entry has to be, and I guess it's all about making what you want to make, and that is valid. So try not to look at what this is one area where I say try not to worry about what anyone else is doing and compare your project idea to theirs. This is like where I want you to actually have your little blinkers on so that you can't see what everyone else is doing, because I think sometimes that can maybe get in your head a little bit about oh, but I'm just gonna do an apron, like Kathy just used as an example. But there was a really beautiful apron, you know, like, and if you're a new sewer, if you're a beginner, then you need to build up, you know, you need to start with something, you know, so that you can build up to make the whole outfits, and that's okay. We're going to get into more about how things are judged and everything, but it's not going to be compared. Just know that it's not going to be compared to that fancy outfit, okay? It's it's going to be.
Well, that apron won a prize.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got your idea. Okay. In my example, I'm just going to say you're just going to make a corset, right? And I've got some lovely pictures that one of our other mentors, Barbara from Royal Black Couture, has kindly let me use for our presentation, because she is wonderful and she takes photos of all her work on mannequins before she sends them off to her clients. And I was not in the habit of doing that. So that just means we can share it with you without having to get permission from various people. So thank you, Barbara, for letting us use these. Okay, but as an example, say you're going to make just a single garment. I'm going to say a corset because that's my jam. And you want to do, maybe you're imagining an overbust corset design with layers of lace and beading, and you want it to be really, you want it to be a bit fancy, yeah? How do you kind of break that down and know in the back of your mind that you've got a plan B up your sleeve if things take longer than you think, or life throws some curveballs at you and you don't have as much time as you thought? And this is what I do, or I've started doing, not since the beginning of my making journey, but this is something that I've adapted over time, and it really helps me. So hopefully it helps you. Is you break down your idea into 3 categories: the need to have, the want to have, and the nice to have. So what I mean by that is, now I'm going to do some screen sharing again. Just one moment. So need, want, nice. So what I mean by that is,
There it is. See that?
there it is. Can everyone see that?
I can see that. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So like I said, this is the work of one of the other Foundations Revealed mentors, Barbara from Royal Black Couture. So like, as I just said, the idea was, say, an overbust corset with layers of lace and beading. That's kind of like that's my personal thing that I just love doing. So if you were to break this design down into the things that you need in order to still be able to enter, okay? The minimum that you need for this corset to be enterable in the competition would be, it needs to be finished. Doesn't need any embellishment. It just needs to fit, and it needs to be wearable. Yeah, you need to be out. It's got to have the boning in it. It's got to have the lacing done. You don't even need to worry about the lining if you were going to put lining in it, because no one's going to see that. It just needs to be a plain blank canvas. Mm-hmm. That is the minimum that your design needs to be enterable. The need. This is the absolute basic. If you strip back all the fancy stuff, you could still enter this. I mean, this is Barbara's work. She's been, making corsets for a very long time, and she's professional. So her basic corset, it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty, even without any details, like any embellishment on it. It's a thing.
And by the way, don't be overwhelmed by it. This is professional work. Don't be thinking like my work has to look like this to be good enough to enter the competition. This is like full-on pro work. I mean, you might have seen Barbara she's been featuring in a couple of Bernadette's videos. She's the tailor from Austria. So don't be comparing your work to this. This is just an example of the need, want, nice principle.
Yeah, this is just trying to show you like a really streamed back design. And remember, there are 5 categories that you can enter in the competition. And if Barbara was entering, she would be in the top category. If you're new to making, you can enter in the beginner category, and that's totally fine. Yeah. Okay. So that's the bare minimum the design needs. Just it needs to be wearable. Mm-hmm. Okay. The want to have. So that's the next step. That could be, in this example, as also, these are different corsets, but if you could imagine them all, they're all the same one, really. So see, in this corset, there is a little bit of lace around the cups. There's some diamantes that have been glued on. So no sewn on beading. It's just glued on diamantes, which still takes time, by the way, but it's not as time consuming as hand sewing beads. And there's just a little bit of lace around the top edge and at the side of the cups. And that's all the embellishment. It still looks lovely. It's beautiful. I mean, I think it looks amazing, but it's not, remember I said at the start that I wanted like layers of multiple lace with beading and, you know, really like zazzy. Like I wanted to, you know, this is zazzy. So this has, you know, this is a want to have. Yeah. Time's gone okay. I want to have a bit of detail added to it. You know, I want it to be more in line with my original vision, but I maybe don't have as much time as I thought, or you're discovering that the idea you have actually takes way more time than you thought it would. So it might not be that you didn't plan or that life threw you any curveballs. It could just be that, you know, it's just a more consuming skill, like time consuming skill or part of making the thing than you thought it would be. And often that's the case. That's probably another one of my tips for planning your projects or your competition entry or whatever it is you're going to be using this advice for, is that most things take longer than you think they will, a lot longer. Yes. Lace applique takes forever. And you think, yeah. And then the last category I said was the nice to have. And here is a piece with, there's at least 2 types of lace, if not 3 types of lace. There's a lot of heavy beading on this. And there's a lot of applique all over it. And this is the, you know, like if everything's gone to plan, you just had the time, you know, this is, and you actually get to complete your original vision. So this is all 3 stages. So on the right in the purple corset, that might be your idea. It's a metaphor for whatever your idea is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you need to be able to sort of, before you even start, break it down so you have backup plans, so that if things don't go according to plan, it's not like it's not an emotional blow because you already know going in, right, this is my goal. I'm dreaming for this big thing, like big to me, whatever that big project is to you. I've got this ambitious goal, but I know if I don't quite meet that ambitious goal, I've still got some other options that I can still technically complete. Yes. And it could be, so, I mean, each 3 of these corsets in this example, they're all beautiful corsets for their own reason. Like they're, you know, the thing is, you could enter the need to have corset on the left. Mm-hmm. No one needs to know that your design dreams were the nice to have option in the purple on the right. Mm-hmm. Really good point. Yeah. Who's going to know? Who's going to know? What's that meme that's going around like, they'll never know? Like, they'll never know if you don't tell them. And there are things that can be done, you know, that could always be done later as well. You know, maybe you have visions of hand sewing in some beautiful lining into a coat. Like maybe you're making a coat and you're like, right, I'm going to do all this lovely, you know, work. It's going to be this swishy coat, and inside I'm going to have this fabulous like brocade satiny lining or whatever it is that you want to do. And maybe the absolute need to have stripped back version of that garment is that you don't put the lining in order to enter it, and all that means is you don't take a photo with the coat open. You just take a photo with the coat closed, and no one would know. You can always add the lining later, for example. Yeah.
And if that was your dream project, also you can enter it as it is in the competition, and then after the competition, your 80% there to that dream project, and you can finish it after the competition, put the lining in after the competition, and hooray, you got your dream coat. So you can use the competition to get you like 80% there.
Another example that I wanted to sort of give you is, say you're wanting to do a ensemble. So say maybe a history banding outfit that would be comprised of perhaps a walking skirt, a waistcoat, and a shirt. We'll just say 3 items. If you were to strip that back to need, want, nice. So I would say the most iconic part of that ensemble would be, I mean, and this could be different depending on what you have available in your wardrobe as well. Because remember, you can style it. If it ends up just being one garment that you end up making, rather than, you know, 3 or more, you can style it with things you haven't made. When you enter, you list what it is that you're entering, right? So there are allowed to be other garments in, you know, as part of the outfit, but they're not going to be assessed. They're not going to be judged. So, for example, you're dreaming of a history banding outfit. You want to do a walking skirt, a waistcoat, and a shirt. That's your ambitious project idea. The need to want, I would say, would be the walking skirt. I'd say that's the most iconic part of that. The want to have, I would say, would be the waistcoat, and the nice to have would be the shirt. Because if you only made the walking skirt, you could wear that with a shirt that, you know, you maybe get from a thrift store that you already have in your wardrobe. It doesn't have to be one that you made. You could just wear the walking skirt with a shirt. You don't even need the waistcoat, really. I mean, maybe the waistcoat is the nice to have. You know, you decide what would work for you.
Yeah.
But that kind of can take the pressure off needing to make 3 outfits and really only just needing to make 1 garment. Sorry, 3 items of clothing and just make 1 garment. That's how I would maybe approach that kind of thing. And you can do that with different ensembles. You can really think about, okay, what is the most, I guess, iconic part of this design that I absolutely have to make in order to kind of get my overall vision across, you know, to convey the main idea that I wanted.
Yeah.
And my advice to you would be to make that bit first, and everything else is a bonus. Don't worry about the little accessories. Don't worry about the hairpiece or the little cuffs or the jewelry that, you know, they're finishing touches. I mean, they're nice to have, but you don't need to have them. Hopefully that helps. Again, don't be intimidated by the photos of those beautiful corsets that Barbara made. That was just to illustrate a point, but it can be so helpful at the start of your project to take a step back and actually break it down into what's absolutely necessary, what's nice to have, and what you want to have and what's nice to have. So it's need, you have to, you know, this is the most important thing. The want, that's kind of like, you know, oh yeah, that would I guess give the next level of wow to the project. And the nice to have, I would kind of say that's like all the little finishing things that most people probably wouldn't notice. So that could be any hand finishing details that are on the inside of the garment. No one's going to see those in a photo, and they're nice to have, and they're nice for your creative soul to do. Like, it's just nice to know that, you know, you've given it your 100%. If that's the kind of maker that you are, no judgment if that's not the thing that is your jam, because we all sew for different reasons and we all enjoy different parts of sewing. But I would say any little hand finishing details are usually in the nice to have category, not the need or want to have category. And you can always build on things. So, I mean, another example could be that maybe you wanted to make hand covered buttons, you know, like self-covered buttons in the same fabric, but you ran out of time. So you had to use store-bought buttons instead of the hand covered ones. They're still going to look great. There's nothing stopping you at a later date hand making some buttons and swapping them over.
Right.
You know, it doesn't, it's not all lace and beads. Like, you know, think of this in different ways. How can you scale back your big project so that you've got a plan B and a plan C up your sleeve to still meet your deadline? And this isn't just for the competition. This is for, maybe there's an event you're going to and you want to make an outfit to wear to that event. You need to know, if you can do this with every project that has a deadline, or, you know, in general, it helps you actually get things wearable. And, you know, it's hard to walk away from projects, I think, sometimes. You know, like, when do you put down the paintbrush? You know, when is something really truly done? So if you can define this before you even start, you do kind of get a sense of completion. Like, when you get the need to want stuff out of the way, it kind of feels like you've finished that first bit of the project. So you get that buzz from, like, oh, I finished the first bit. Great, I'm onto the bonus stuff now. Like, anything else is just a bonus. But you can sit, instead of waiting till absolutely everything's finished, you can be like, the need to finish stuff is done. Like, that's phase 1 done. I could enter it right now if I wanted, or I could wear it to that event because it's technically a wearable garment. No one will know if it's not, if you haven't finished the nice one.
I think that really opens up the possibilities. It just takes so much pressure off. And you've got those 3 options, you've got different options, and it doesn't have to be, you know, it's not a do or die. That if you don't do the perfect ambitious thing, that's it. I think I'm seeing in the chat that people are saying the need, want, nice to have is really helping me to take the pressure of making the whole ensemble I have in mind as an absolute beginner. Yeah, very helpful, and give me a timeline, Citizen says. So yeah.
I like what Kira just said. I just read one of the comments. Kira said, when is it not better, just different? That's so true.
Yeah.
You know, and I think oftentimes we can get caught up in worrying that perhaps other people, like in our heads, I mean, like worrying that people might perceive our creation as not good enough because we're perceiving it as not good enough because we haven't completed it to our original idea, the level that we originally imagined, for example. But thinking back to those corsets I showed you, you know, that plain corset, if I never told you that I was planning on doing lace and beadwork on a corset design, not my corset, but just pretend, you know what I mean. And I just showed you that plain corset. Like, I assume, I mean, we're all friends here. You're not going to turn around and go, God, it looks so much better with some lace on it, wouldn't it? Like, you'd just be like, wow, look at, like, that's amazing. You made that? You finished that? Wow. No one's going to know what was in your head originally. And sometimes it's just part of the making process that sometimes designs evolve as you're making them.
Yes, certainly.
You don't, and that's okay. They don't necessarily have to turn out exactly like you first envisaged. And sometimes they do, and that's wonderful. But for a lot of makers, not just me, I know that the creative process, you know, it could just be like, oh, the fabric I actually picked really isn't going to work with my original idea. I need to reevaluate that a little bit. But we're just going to keep moving forward, and we're just going to use that original idea as the inspiration, and we're going to do something slightly different. That's okay too. You know, just the fabric tells you what it wants to be sometimes, even if that's not what you want it to be. And you just have to kind of roll with it and adapt stuff as you go. So yeah, like, people don't know what's in your head. So don't worry about if you don't get all the nice to have stuff finished.
Yeah.
But you can do it if you want. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. It's such a great strategy. I hope that is making it, tell me in the chat, is that making it easier? Is that taking pressure off, or making it feel like it's a bit easier to figure out how you can do something that's enough but not too much by having those 3 different options? I think that's really going to help you to know that you can do this rather than having it be, you know, all or nothing. Now that you've got that little shift down, the next part, once you've got your design and your need, want, nice to have, is now you've got to translate that knowledge into the fabric, the actual doing. So we've covered design tonight, but tomorrow we've got to get into the most important key to getting your entry done, which is how you actually pace the work as you go along, how you actually plan it out. So I'm also going to share my screen now, and I'm going to ask you whether you've ever seen, hang on, I've not got it ready in a window. Okay, it's not going to even let me minimize my screen so I can open it. Have you ever seen that meme that's about the creative process? And there's a timeline, and that at the beginning, it's like all the excitement at the beginning, and then you don't want to know in the middle, and then there's panic towards the end, and then there's this little tiny time at the end, and it says, and it has a big arrow pointing to it saying, all the work while crying, as in the last few nights before the deadline, you do all the work. So that's the creative process for so many people, but that's really probably what holds more people back than anything with actually getting it done. So tomorrow night, we're going to start going into how you actually plan out the work. So you're going to pace yourself over the whole process and not make it into this huge, stressful nightmare at the end. There is a way to plan things out so that you do make it like a pro does in time for the wedding, good time for the wedding day, like a theatrical pro does in time for opening night. There's a way of planning your creative work out so that you're not procrastinating, and then panicking and doing all the work while crying at the end. So that's what we're going to go into tomorrow night. So in the meantime, I hope you're starting to see that this process of going through an ambitious project, or maybe entering a competition, is perhaps a bit simpler than you've been led to believe when you actually sort of have a few key skills. So that skill of designing something, picking your design quickly, and then breaking it into a need, want, nice, takes the pressure off in terms of how ambitious it is, because you've got those different options. And then tomorrow night, we'll go into the actual process. So let me know in the comments below this video whether you found this useful, and let me know what you're designing. I want to remind you of that little homework, if you're up for the challenge of actually having your design down by the time we come back tomorrow. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments, and let me know a little bit about what your skill level is and what you're thinking of making and how you're approaching this. Just let us get to know you a little bit so that we can pitch these classes for the people who are here. And I just want you to know overall that this competition and this hobby of costuming, it doesn't have to be something that you just kind of enjoy vicariously through the internet. I want to really challenge you to actually get involved and give it a try, and give yourself that opportunity to grow and to find out what you can do. You never know what you can do until you try, which is what Anasazi Bruton said, which is one of our entrants from last year. You never know what you can do until you try. So I hope you're feeling inspired. I hope you're feeling at least curious about what it might be like and what you would make if you were going to enter. So we are going to come back tomorrow. We will be here at the same time. I will try to get the link right this time. So thank you, Loana, for being here with us. I really appreciate you bringing your expertise and helping us all to learn how to do this better and to encourage us all a bit. So do you have any just a little bit of a 2-sentence closing words to sum up?
You can do the thing.
Yeah.
You can do the thing. Just make a decision. That is going to be the right decision, and that is going to be the perfect project for you. Is just pick something and start. That is the big secret to a successful competition entry. Is pick something and start. Yeah.
So I would love to hear what you're making. Decide what you're going to do today, and decide, start to have a little think. If you already know what you're doing, start to have a little think about that need, want, nice. what is your need, want, nice? And we will see you back here at the same time tomorrow. Thank you everybody for being here.